I've been using email marketing for 10 years now. I've been using MailChimp, which is the only thing that you could use 10 years ago. I've bounced around, I've used other platforms and have come back to using MailChimp. And specifically the last 4 years, I've noticed that it has turned into my best marketing platform for my business. I think a lot of businesses think, and again, I think it said it in the blurb, that email marketing is a bit kind of spammy and people don't really like to use it. What I'm hopefully going to show you is why it's my best marketing piece, and why if I work with companies or if I train individuals, it normally becomes the more powerful of their marketing pieces, even a little bit more powerful than social media, which at the time, or at the moment, everybody thinks social media is great. It is great. I use it as well. But in terms of my consistent numbers, I get it from my email marketing. So I'm going to walk through that in a second. I'm going to turn on my slides and we'll go through that. And I have some real world numbers. I've done 2 email marketing I sent them out in the last month. I've sent 2 things. I'm going to show you the numbers from that so that hopefully you can understand that it is real. It's a real-time numbers and how it works. And I'm also going to talk to you about some industry numbers as well. So I don't know what the different industries are that are represented here, but it'll give you a better idea about what good performing email marketing should look like for your industry. So, right, and with that, now what I was going to say was I was going to tell a little story in the beginning at the slide. I'm not going to because I think we're probably going to be running a little bit short for time. So the first slide might not make a lot of sense, but if I've got time at the end, I will tell you the story about it. So I'm going to share my screen now. Ooh, hold on. Right. Okay. Ooh, let me go back. Right. Can everybody see that? Is that all right? Right. Again, that's my home screen, but don't worry about it for a moment. I'm not going to explain to you what that is, and hopefully till the end. I just want to touch a little bit on GDPR. I did ask Bryony about what would be potentially an issue that some of you would have with doing email marketing, and she said there's an issue with GDPR that some of you might be a bit hesitant to use email marketing because of GDPR. I'm going to give you a really brief, non-legal my look at it, and I have written articles about it, so I'm talking about it from an educated but not a legal point of view, which is that small businesses, which I'm assuming most of yours are really good at asking permission for using email addresses, and that doesn't necessarily mean in a formal way. But we're very good about not abusing an email address when it's given to us. What I would say is the GDPR rules, which obviously limit what you're allowed to do with an email address unless you've asked for it. For smaller businesses, because we are very receptive to not wanting to abuse people's email addresses, I think you needn't worry about that. I think at some point there might be somebody coming on from a legal point of view to talk about it, but I don't think small businesses on a whole will go out of their way to spam people who haven't asked for more information about what your business does. So if you can remember that, I don't get too wrapped up in GDPR. Like I said, I wrote about it. I apply the same principles to my businesses, and I've never had any problems with them. So just keep that in mind. Don't let it be a hindrance to actually doing email marketing. All right. It's not that much of it's not that hard for you to get around it. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. So what we'll talk about, if I can get this, it's a little bit slow. I'm sorry. We got everybody in my family using, there we go. Right. So what I'm going to talk about is why email marketing is great marketing for small businesses. We're going to talk about what it takes for me to create my weekly newsletter. And it's actually every other week. And it takes me less than 30 minutes to do it. Okay. And I know you're probably thinking, well, it's easy for you to say you do newsletters, but everybody can do it, not just me. And then the last thing is I'm just going to try and help you find how to get some good content. What I would say to you is finding great content isn't as difficult as you think. And when you successful newsletters, the ones that I certainly have seen and analyzed, don't sell what your business is in an obvious way. I say to people, there's a thing called an 80-20 split, which is the content of your newsletter or the content of whatever it is that you're contacting your your people with should be 80% about stuff that's on the periphery of what you do as a business, and 20% should actually be on your business. Newsletters that focus too much on the sales and the salesy bit of it, people turn off and they're not interested in it. And I see that even because I go on to a lot of people's newsletters just to see. And the minute I feel as if they're just trying to sell me something, I'm not interested. Newsletters have to be newsy, not salesy. And if you can remember that, when we get to the point, if you get to the point when you're starting to write your content, it'll make a huge difference on how people interact with your newsletter, okay? So here's my trick, not my trick, it's my secret, okay? Email newsletters, what makes them the best marketing tool for small businesses is connection. You can make, well, so actually I'll tell you a little story. When I used to work in marketing, well, it was 16, 17 years ago when there was no digital marketing, and you used to do all those flyers on people's doorsteps and all that. Basically, you had to make contact with somebody 3 times for them to consider buying your product or your service. And in the old days, that was normally an ad in the paper, an ad in the radio, or something pushed through your letterbox, right? Now, because of social media, because of all the different outlets that are available for people to push information at you, it's 11 times, and it's probably gone up since that number as well. So what a newsletter does and what email marketing allows you to do is make that contact and make it in a way that connects. Again, going back to what I was saying before, if you can get your content right, which is this 80-20 split, that connection gets made. And when that connection gets made, your sales moving forward are a lot easier, and you can find that that person becomes part of your core, I just call them your core sales, because that person will continue to be part of your cycle of buying and selling. So that connection that you can make through having a newsletter is different than it would be on any of the social media platforms. So remember that 11 times, and having a newsletter helps you get there quicker. Okay, right. Going back to what I said, it's relationship and your connection first, and then you're going to ask for that transaction second. That relationship bit that you're going to build in your newsletter will be the thing that allows that transaction to happen with not a lot of friction. It takes time, but doesn't it everything that you're going to do, social media, whatever, but that's what a newsletter can do better than any of the other platforms. Right. I'd like to show you a little example. So these are 2 emails that I've sent out, or 2 newsletters that I've sent out. This one here, which is the trying to recreate, again, don't worry about the name of them, they're just the names that I give them, Corona email newsletter. It was sent out to 1,100 people on my newsletter list, and I had a 35% open rate. When can you think of any of your social media posts that have had a 35% view ratio? And it just means how many times have you posted something and known that you've hit 35% of the people that are on your contact list? Probably not very many. And that's because this newsletter, like I've said, I've worked really hard to make sure that it's just that right balance, and it gets sent out regularly. And that's another thing, you have to be consistent about it. That's why it gets a good open rate. I'm going to go down here as well. There was another one that I sent out, and that was on the 11th of April, and that had a 39% open rate. When I sent that out, I waited 4 days, and I sent one up here, which is a resend to the ones that didn't open it, and that got another 14%. So can you see that those numbers are what I would say, again, going back when I was doing marketing and it wasn't digital, you really had a hard time understanding if what you were doing was actually connecting. You can see it with the numbers that you get on MailChimp or any of the other email marketing platforms that you use. But that's that power that I was saying to you that good email marketing can have, that's far and away better than any of the other social media platforms. All right, I'm going to show you one more as well. So there was a couple of weeks ago, I did some training for 2 ladies that have a wedding business. They do wedding fairs, and like everybody else with the corona, they had to switch their business, and they decided to do a virtual one. So they came to me asking how we could use email marketing to help people come to this virtual wedding fair in a way that was different. Anyway, worked with them. We worked on making sure that the emails were timely, that they had the right content, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you can see it, but the open rates were 62, 54. I mean, fantastic open rates, but it was because they were very, you did them for you had the right content, the right timing, and you sent them out in a can't think of the right word, but in an organized fashion. So people were expecting them when they got them. That's what good email marketing can do. So again, one of the things I said I'd try and do is show you some real time numbers. And these are all numbers that have been produced during the COVID crisis, which everybody's finding is really hard. And in industries, wedding industries having a really tough time now. They've turned it on their head by using email marketing a little bit differently. So keep that in mind as well. Now, going back to what I was saying, this is some industry averages for everybody to look at. When we talk about something called an open rate, it means if that email lands in someone's inbox, it's whether they take the time to click on it. You know as well as I do, we get emails in our inboxes and we sometimes think, oh, I can't be bothered. No. So what you're trying to look at, and I'll give you an example, the highest one here is actually government. And it's 30.50% is the open rate for that. And then I think automotive and aerospace, it's 12.6. So you can see, I don't know, I don't know what everybody's different industries are here, but what you should be aiming for when you do an email marketing campaign, and it doesn't always happen in the beginning, it takes time, is you're trying to get your open rates to be on par with those industry averages, to know that you're doing it and you're doing it well. Like I said, mine's 35, 39%. And again, it just blows those numbers out of the water, but that's because I try to apply a lot of the stuff that I show and teach other people how to do to my own business, and it does work. So keep that in mind, depending on what your industries are, that'll give you an idea of what you should be looking at for numbers. All right.
We've had a couple of questions, and I don't know whether you're going to be covering this, but how important is the title when sending out email communications? And for the content, do you have to be very creative?
Right. Two good questions. Yes. So for the title, you have to be aware that you really shouldn't use words like free or download now or the spammy words. Do you know what I mean? The words that you know are the clickbait words. And again, there is some software, and if you want afterwards, I'm happy to send out a follow-up email that does analyzes content, email, the subject line content to tell you if it's good. As a matter of fact, in MailChimp, and again, we'll get to a slide where I talk about MailChimp. MailChimp does that as well. It'll tell you if that title that you're using is a good one, and it won't get caught in a filter. So that's the first thing. It is important, but it's more important that you don't use those wrong words. Those are the ones that are really bad. Right. Do you have to be creative? That's a bit of a stickler question, isn't it? I like to write, and I don't have any problem writing. I think it depends on if you like to write in the industry that you are in. What I would say to you, and maybe start paying attention to this, I find the newsletters that are sent to me, where the person that's sending it or the business that they're sending on behalf of comes across as a real and authentic business, I automatically, psychologically attach myself to wanting to read that. Now, whether that means you have to be creative about how you would write that really comes down to the industry that you're in and what it is that you want your newsletter to achieve. Okay, I think what you have to think about when you're going to write a newsletter is, what do you think they want to read? That's easy to find. You can see it on LinkedIn. You can see it on Facebook, all the different social media platforms. Within your industry, there'll be the same questions that are coming up. If you can think of ways to answer those questions that aren't the usual boring way, yes, I do think it's a little bit more creative. So you don't have to have a degree in writing to do it. And again, I'm going to show you at the end. I can tell you the slide now. It says don't overthink it, because people tend to overthink it. So does that answer your question-ish? Yeah?
I think that's good, Maeri. Thank you.
Okay. What I'm going to say to you is that of all your marketing, this is probably what you have, the bulk of what you have. Facebook, Instagram posts, LinkedIn, and Twitter, maybe writing blog posts. I get it that you're busy. And the last thing you want is somebody like me sitting here saying, oh, but you should take time out of your schedule to do this one as well. What I would say is, yes, you do need a newsletter. Hopefully the previous slides I've shown you, which gives you some of the real detail and the numbers behind it, will convince you that you do as well. The other reason that you can do it is that it's this connection issue. What I'm going to show you next, it's free. It doesn't cost you more than your time. And did I mention that it's free? I know I said that twice. And I said it twice because a lot of small businesses, especially at the moment with everything that's happening, probably watching their spend on marketing more than they would have in the past. And again, I'm going to go through in the slides in a minute about what I use. All the stuff that I use is free. So it doesn't cost you anything. And really, I think at the moment, if you've got time on your hands and you know that you don't have to spend money on it, it's worth something. It's definitely worth something considering. I'm going to show you one more set of numbers, and this is from my own newsletter. Now you can see down here on the left, I started, I think the first numbers were in May 2013, right? And you can see my numbers were tiny. But can you see that trajectory that I think the last date that I could actually grab this from, because they stopped allowing you to have access to this, was 2015. So I went from what looks like about 10. Within 4 years, I had almost 600. This list is now at 1,100, and I kind of skim it and keep it at 1,100 because to me, that's the right number for me to have on that list, that I know I can connect with them. But what I'm trying to say to you is you absolutely have to start somewhere. And even if it's now with 2 people on an email list, that 2 over time can become 600, 1,000, 10,000. I know one of the things that I had said when we were talking about the list was that you don't need to have a huge list to have it be a high performing list. As a matter of fact, there comes a time when the numbers increase at such a rate that it becomes a less performing list. You've got too many people on that list to make it a good performing list. And you have to think about it this way. If you have 1,000 people in an auditorium and you're presenting to them, you can probably make a much bigger impact to 1,000 people than 10,000 people. And that's basically the maths behind it. So don't think, why should I start if I can't get to 10,000? Don't worry about the 10,000. Get the 50, get the 100, get the 150, keep going. And then suddenly, 3 years later, you'll find you have 600 people on there. Okay, so that's another thing as well. The other thing that's great, and again, this is pre-digital, when you used to do marketing, when you used to send out marketing flyers years ago, if you made a mistake, you were screwed, you're stuck. If that flyer didn't do very well and people didn't like it, you were stuck with boxes of them that you then had to figure out what to do, and you pulped them. Nowadays with digital, because you can change what you're doing from literally one mailing to another, you can just connect so much better. So that's the other reason to do it. If you do it wrong, just do it next time and do it better. And you can do that with the digital second. So that's another thing. Don't be put off by the fact that it's not the best. You can make it better. Right.
Maeri, we've had another couple of questions.
Yep.
Are stats available in MailChimp?
Yep.
And how often would you recommend sending out a newsletter?
Right. I send my newsletter. Okay, the most important thing is sending it out when you say you're going to send it out. If you can only fathom having an email a newsletter go out once a month, send that out once a month, but you do it on the same day at the same time, the first Monday of the month at 9 in the morning. You're training them to expect to see that newsletter every Monday, or that first Monday of the month at 9. I send mine out every other week. Actually, I've got 2 newsletters that I send out, and I toggle them. So one newsletter gets sent out one week, and then the other one the second week, and then the other one the other week. So every 2 weeks they get sent out, and that's fine. It fits in with my time, and it fits in with like the interest level of the people that's involved. So, but you can send it more if you find that there's times that you need to, like maybe at Christmas time, or maybe if whatever your service is, there's more need for it at a certain time. You can send it out more regularly, but it's more important that you send it out when you say you're going to, so that people know to expect it. I will also take that time and I will promote that I am sending out the newsletter on my social media outlets as well, so that they know that it's coming as well. And I'll always have a link that tells people where to go to sign up for it. And then they can find, so you're kind of toggling using the social media to tell people that you're going to send it, and then you send it out. Does that make sense?
I think so, thank you.
Okay, I know it's not a specific time because there isn't one. It depends on how much time you've got to devote to it, your industry, and you know, just being consistent. It's more important that you're consistent than that you try to do it all the time and miss it. So what I use to create my weekly newsletters, which takes me less than a half an hour to do, which is great. I use MailChimp. It's free. You've got a free version, and I was doing a workshop this morning training some people on it, and they're all learning how to use it, the free version, because you can pay, but to be honest with you, when you first start out, you don't get that much more for the pay. So it's great because it's free. And I think also once you understand how to use it, it's pretty intuitive. And people quite like it because it is easier to use. They keep adding new stuff that digital marketers love. So in the beginning, MailChimp just grabbed, and this is going back 10 years ago, they just grabbed email addresses and you send out a newsletter, and that's that. Going back to the question before, there's now stats, so I can drill down and I can see exactly what clicks on each thing people liked. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's a technique called Hotjar, where I can literally see where people have hovered over that newsletter to see what bit of it they're most interested in. They also have things that you can, again, I'll show this in a minute. They've made it so that you can use the information that you put into MailChimp to then create an ad that goes on Instagram or on Facebook. And it's one of those things that, yeah, this is the slide that I've showed it to you. In the beginning, they didn't do that, but now what they're doing is they recognize that you have to have your email marketing almost dovetail with the social media stuff that you do as well. So they've incorporated it, and it's very good, because what you find is the information that you put in for your email marketing, you can use that to do these ads. They reshape your images. They pull out some of the text to include it in the ads, and you can see, you know, it goes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So they go to the big three. So that's a thing as well. They're adding more all the time. And I noticed about 6 weeks ago, they've created this thing where you can now do a website with them. I wouldn't suggest that for various reasons. But again, they're now realizing that people who are coming to MailChimp might also want a website. So they've added that as well. So that's why I just think MailChimp works when you're first learning how to do it, right? Okay, right. The other little hint is when you design a newsletter, pick a template. It's easy. They make it easy to create one. I've got different templates. You can see them here, and I use them for different mailings to different people, but I don't redesign it every time I go on. I've got a template. I send it out. It works. I tell people, your newsletter should be like McDonald's. When you go into McDonald's, you know where the menu is, you know where the counter is, you know what your Big Mac's going to taste like. When you do your newsletter, set your template up so people know where everything is going to be, what content sections are, so that they can scroll it and look at it and get everything that they need really quickly. They don't want to have to relearn the formatting that you've done for your newsletter. Okay, so that's another thing. Use your templates. Now, just to make you feel better, I'm going to show you, this is the first one I did back in 2010. Is it not the ugliest thing that you've ever seen? And I'm showing it to you. So what made me think that, you know, green and that red were a great color combination? I have no idea. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you spend a lot of time worrying about how good it looks and, oh my goodness, I have to make sure it's absolutely perfect, it won't go. You have to start with almost like that first really crappy one to get it out the door. And once you got that one out the door, you can start to get better. You can start to monitor your stats and you can create it. Again, going back to what I was saying, if you didn't like that, that template, redesign another one. And then away you go. You can do that. So that's a nice thing. So I showed you my first one. So I don't want to hear about you guys not being able to do it because you don't know what they look like. Right. For me, I use these things are what I use to create my newsletter. I said MailChimp, Canva. I'm sure a lot of you know about Canva. It's free. It's great in terms of being good for editing images and cleaning them up. I also use Grammarly or Hemingway, which are two free writing extensions that allow me to make sure that my spelling's correct. Because obviously, I'm not from this country, and occasionally I use words the wrong way around, and I need to have somebody tell me that that's not right. So you can use either one of those. I use another one called Eyedropper, and it's a Chrome extension, and it allows me to color match. So I can always make sure that all of my on-brand stuff is the right color. And I also have another thing called full page screen capture. And that's not really for you to worry about, but that allows me to look at what my newsletter is going to look like when it's finally done. They're all free. So there's no reason, and then the MailChimp. So you're talking 5 super powerful bits of software. Back when I was in marketing years ago, we would have paid a fortune for all of these, and we would have had to have different agencies to use them, and it would have taken forever. It's all on your desktop. You can use them, and they're all for free. Okay? Right. We talked about the great content. And what I would say to you is, and I'm going to go back to it, it's the 80-20 split. If you can remember, 80% of what you write about should be fringe topics. The 20% should be about your company. You will find people will want to read what you have to write. Okay? So that's that. Right. How are we doing for time? Right, 1 o'clock.
We're at 1 o'clock, but I've said to everyone that don't worry if they need to leave. We can follow up with an email, so do feel free to continue, Maeri.
Well, what I was going to say was, if there's questions, ask me now. And then if I get a chance, I'll explain to you about this, thank you, but no thank you. So ask me questions if you've got them.
There's none just now.
I'm just laughing because it's so quiet. It's like, and you're like, anybody coming? Right. So the story behind thank you, but no thank you. So you've obviously clocked that I'm not from here. I moved to Warrington about 26 years ago. And when I was moving onto the road that I lived on, I was moving my stuff from the van into the house. Got a little knock on the door, and a man opened the door, young guy, said, "My name is Dave. I see you're new in the neighborhood. I am the local window cleaner. I clean everybody's windows, and I just thought I'd give you my card because, you're going to want to have your windows cleaned." And I thanked him and said, "Great, Dave, I'll hold on to that information. Thank you." But what Dave hadn't realized is that I come from a long line of people who don't wash windows. It's not my bag. And I think it's because I grew up in quite a remote part of the United States where windows just didn't get dirty. And anyway, about a month later, knock on my door. It was Dave again. He said, "Just want to know how you're doing." And I was like, "I'm doing all right. Thanks very much." Didn't know anybody, so I was quite happy to see Dave. He said to me, "Do you want your windows done?" And I said, "Nah, I'm all right, Dave. Thanks very much." And he looked at me and said, "Okay, well, you know where I am if you need me." And I said, "Great." And he said, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, this bins thing." I said, "What's the deal with these bins and garbage?" Because again, I had never had that before I moved over here. Bless him. He explained to me what it was, told me, what day to bring them out. I was like, "Oh, thank you. You are so helpful." A month later, I just got a little card through the door that said, "Dave's bin, just to let you know, I'm here if you need me." And at that point, you're probably thinking, "Well, what's this got to do with email marketing?" What you have to realize is what Dave was doing to me is effectively what email marketing does to a customer. It's slowly letting them know that you're there. And when they are ready to buy, you are the one that they're going to think of. I'll fast forward to my story. August morning, open up my curtains, the windows, because it was on quite a busy road. It just had this haze on them. And I went, "Oh my gosh, I've got to wash my windows." And who did I think of? Dave. Dave, because he spent the time to very gently help me, give me what I needed, remind me he was there. And then when I was ready to get a window cleaner, he was the one I used. I used him for 2.5 years. And the only reason I didn't use him when I moved was that he didn't clean the area that I moved in. So him making that time to create the relationship, it took him 4 months, 5 months, meant that when I was ready to make the transaction, going all the way back to that first 2 slides that I mentioned, he was the one that I thought of. And that's what you have to remember when you're doing email marketing for your business. Okie dokie.